Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I'm a few days behind on this, but I'm finally going to be talking about the warbond content. Not in great detail. It's going to be one of these overview videos of my initial impressions of using all the things we get in this most recent warbond. Obviously, we got a patch as well that went along with this warbond that I'll be talking about throughout this coming up week in various videos and whatnot. But today, we're going to be doing my initial impressions on everything you get in the most recent warbond. As always, timestamps are available down at the bottom if you need to skip around for your convenience, so that way you can see which parts of the video you're most interested in. But without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off with the most expensive thing you can get in the warbond, that is the K2 throwing knife, which is what the majority of people were actually pretty interested in, because this is the first weapon type thing we're getting in the game that is not an actual gun. It's a throwing knife, so it leads to people to think that we're going to get melee weapons and things in the future, but this is our first iteration of something like that. Now, this weapon doesn't have any stats, which is kind of annoying, because it would be nice to know if it was at least medium or light armor penetration. And then also it'd be nice to know the damage of this thing, because one of the biggest complaints so far in the community is that this thing, like everything else, unfortunately, when they first come out, feels pretty weak to use, which is kind of annoying. So the reason why I'm focused on that so much is because this actually takes up your grenade slots. So instead of you getting a grenade to be able to take in to be able to do the objectives or just to blow stuff up in one shot, you get to use this knife, which you get 8 of them, which is nice. But you throw it, and then sometimes it kills them and sometimes it doesn't. Now, if you're fighting the lighter armored units in the game, sure, it's going to one-shot them most times. However, when you're fighting some of the heavier units, the medium armored units, you're going to have to throw a few of these to make it work. I think there was quite a few moments where I was trying to just test this on like a bow spewer, for example, or something, and it would hit it and stick into it, but it didn't do anything, and it would take all 8 of my knives to not even kill it. So again, I understand it's a throwing knife and maybe it's not supposed to be this most overpowered thing, but I can't justify recommending this over something like a grenade. So the other thing I want to talk about is it doesn't feel like it's fully working as intended, because it's supposed to have this silent kill mechanic. But it feels like when you throw this thing, it immediately starts alerting everybody to your presence. It doesn't matter what range this is, right? Because my whole thought was, okay, I could throw this thing and then I kill an enemy, or it throws near to an enemy, and maybe they just don't know where I am initially unless I'm just flat out in the middle of the open. But there were times where I was in a bush, threw the thing like 20 yards away, hit the target and killed something, and then they knew exactly where I was as if I fired a gun. So again, that's just something super weird. I don't know if it's working as intended, but it'd be nice if they actually had that silence mechanic working properly. The other odd thing that I noticed with this is that it doesn't seem to go where you want it to go all the time. And the weird thing I noticed is that when you throw this thing, it does more of a wobbling effect. And I don't know if this has any impact on it, but it's a wobbling effect. And sometimes just misses the target, even though you know you threw it right at them. And that's also very frustrating. It seems like the hit registration is just a little off with it. So I don't know, it's just in a weird state. And again, I don't want to crap on it because I think it's a cool idea, but I think that if you're going to replace your grenade slot, this thing should be pretty overpowered. And the last thing I'll say is that you can't pick up your knives. That's also another point of contention, is that in most games where you get a throwing knife, you can go pick up your knife and be able to recover it. So that way it's like, okay, well, I didn't waste it type thing, but you can't even pick them up. So again, it's a cool idea, and I think it will have some substance and some utility in the future, but they need to do some work on it. And unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of things released in their first iterations in a warbond. But yeah, we'll see what they do in the end. All right, so the SG-22 Bushwhacker has a damage at 405, the capacity is 3, the recoil is 170, the fire rate is 650, the armor penetration is light armor pen, and it is a one-handed weapon. So I'm just gonna flat out say this, I absolutely love this weapon. It's really, really good, and the fact that it's a one-handed weapon gives you all the versatility of having a one-handed weapon. You can use this with shields, you can use this when running with objectives, you can use this while you're sprinting to turn around and just get a couple of quick shots off. It's a really, really cool piece of equipment to use. Now, I don't know if I would take this over the grenade pistol or the P19, but at the same time, I feel like as an alternative to those two, this is a pretty solid option. And the fact that this thing can actually not only just shoot one shell at the time, but it can actually shoot all 3 shells at one time is pretty cool in my opinion, because this gives you a lot of versatility there if you want to just pump all 3 of your shots into a medium armored unit just to make it go away, you can do that, and that's pretty cool. But honestly, this thing is actually really strong by itself, because I know it says light armor penetration, but this thing actually decimates most of the medium armored units up to the very, very top tier elite medium armored units in the game, which is pretty impressive in my opinion for being the shotgun. And again, this thing is just wildly fun to use when you're running with objectives and with a shield. I can't say that enough. So I wanted to say that this is by far one of the best additions to the game, because having a little sidearm shotgun is pretty freaking awesome in my opinion. The AR-23A Liberator Carbine has a damage of 60, the capacity is 45, the recoil is 26, the fire rate is 920, the armor pen is light armor penetration. So it's funny because I really enjoy using this weapon so much. Not only does it sound amazing, it looks amazing, it just feels amazing with the faster fire rate. That is something that Helldivers has been lacking, is really amazing fast fire rate weapons. Now we have the light machine gun, the Stalwart, that does a lot of good fast fire rate damage, as well as the P19 sidearm, and I'm forgetting one other one. But I don't know, it just felt really nice to have an AR that had a really high fire rate to use. However, the light armor penetration is not really even the problem, because it's comparable to the base Liberator. So light armor guns do have a place in Helldivers 2. It's not the problem. The problem is this: the fact that it has such a fast fire rate, yet it has the same magazine capacity as the base AR Liberator, which doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, for me, it makes sense unless you're talking about a Vector or something like that, which even Vectors, you can expand the magazines. But it makes sense that, okay, the faster fire rate equals a higher magazine because you're dishing out more bullets. Because honestly, the worst thing about this weapon is the fact that you're chewing through ammo before you can even really kill anything. So like, that 45 rounds just goes so freaking fast with this level of RPM. So if they could just move it from 45 to, let's just say, 60, for example, I think that'd be a good sweet spot for it, because it needs a bigger magazine size for just that moment. But other than that, I don't really feel like the weapon's in a terrible place. Yes, of course it could do more damage, but everything in Helldivers could do more damage, and at that point, let's just go ahead and buff everything to do the same amount of damage. But my biggest gripe is like, okay, I love the faster fire rate, I feel like it can dish a lot of good damage, and it is pretty useful in a lot of situations. Just give us a little bit more ammo in this thing, come on, because 45 rounds is not enough, because compared to the regular Liberator, this thing is completely ammo inefficient, and that's the biggest downside of this weapon so far. So we did get some new armors, and also finally a new armor passive. So the new armors we did get 2 that you get from the warbond, and we also got 2 additional ones that you can buy in the superstore, one of which has the new armor passive on it, and the other one has the engineer armor passive. So I absolutely adore this armor set that just came out, because these 4 armors all look incredibly unique. I love the little beret that you get with most of them. That's really cool. I even came up with this weird combination with one of the heavier armor helmets and also the one you buy from the superstore, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. So I love the cosplay and the fantasy you get from this armor set, because all of these armor pieces go extremely well with everything already in Helldivers 2, and also you can just make some cool combinations with it. So definitely a huge A+ just for the aesthetic and the look of all these new armor pieces. All right, so jumping into the armor passive called Peak Physique. This increases melee damage by 50% and improves weapon handling with less drag on weapon movement. All right, so this one's a weird one. First of all, the melee damage should be 150%, not 50%, because just doing a regular punch with just a 50% bonus does not feel like much. You're not going to be going around all of a sudden being able to do a full melee build. And again, I have to test this. I'm not going to sit here and flat out say this, but from my understanding, the throwing knife is not considered a melee weapon, so I don't think that it's being affected by this perk. But again, I need to test this to actually make that a full statement. If I'm wrong, please tell me down in the comments below. However, okay, so jumping into the perk overall, 50% melee is not enough, needs to be 150%. So the weapon handling, I don't know if it's working properly, just because I've actually tested this side by side and it just does not look like it's doing anything. And I'm in third person, I'm using the heaviest weapons you can use, so that's not an excuse, because I know some of the people out there were testing it with ARs and, you know, some of the primary weapons, and it wasn't doing anything. So I decided to just do all the heavy weapons and see how it does. There's really not a difference, and in some cases I would dare say that it feels worse with the drag feels worse with the armor passive on. but I don't know. I don't know if it's just a bug, or maybe I'm just not looking at this right, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. Please tell me in the comments below. But I'm gonna have to do a lot more testing on this because I don't want to flat out say it doesn't work, but at this particular moment, it doesn't feel like it works. So cool, I like the idea of this armor passive so much, but we need a much heavier melee damage added to this. 150 would be more than fair in my opinion. And then also the drag, if it's not working properly, it needs to work properly. But I do feel like that this is an indication that we are going to be getting some sort of melee weapons here within the next couple of war bonds, because they're starting to release stuff like the throwing knife and also this armor passive. We're bound for some here at some point, I think. All right, so I'm trying not to get too excited. I say the best for last. So we're gonna talk about the experimental infusion booster. So the description reads, in addition to restoring health, stims temporarily increase movement speed and damage reduction. Causes trembling. I can't say this enough, and I wish I could explain this, but you have to use this thing. This thing feels so amazing to use. Finally, and I say this very, very emphatically, finally, they made us feel like super soldiers, because this thing absolutely is a god tier booster. Now, I know a lot of people can say, stamina's awesome. You know, the having more ammo is awesome from the pod optimization, whatever. No, forget all that. That's cool. I really like that. And yes, in pairing with this, especially with the medkit armor passive, this would be very useful with this thing. But seriously, this thing is absolutely incredible. I don't care what you run. You have to have somebody on your team with this booster. Why? So I'm gonna show you some clips here on screen, but there were so many times where I would just pop this booster on and survive situations that I would have never even in a million years survived. I'm like sitting here, I was doing eradicates to farm medals, and I was sprinting through hordes of elites, medium armored units, devastator rocket guys. They were shooting me and I was not dying. This booster lasts forever when you pop a stim. It's absolutely insane. It's really good. You literally don't feel like you're taking any damage. You're basically activated the Mario mode where you get the star. That's basically what happened. Is it feels like you're getting the star like in Mario. So yeah, it's a really, really good booster. It's a lot of fun. It makes you feel like a super soldier for whatever duration of time it lasts. I haven't fully timed it yet, but it lasts a long time. And with the medkit passive, you get 6 of these stims. Absolutely incredible. Definitely one of the best boosters, if not the best booster in the game now. You have to be running this every single time you go into a dive, because this affects everybody in your team, which is absolutely fantastic. And yes, again, I can't wait to do some full testing on this to get all the full stat breakdowns, but on my initial uses, I absolutely love playing with this. I was laughing hysterically when I was just sprinting past all these hulks and things like that were shooting me with fire and things, and I was able to survive. So anyways, if you don't unlock anything else in this game, in this warbond, go for this, because it's definitely the best thing so far to come out. All right, so in closing, this warbond is a 50-50 for me. I really do like the theme of this warbond. I love the new armors, the way they look. I love how they added a new armor passive. I'm always down for that. I feel like they released an amazing booster that actually does benefit something that's already in the game, and I can't wait for them to actually expand upon this and have other boosters that do the same thing. And the weapons are not bad. They're just, especially the Bushwhacker. The Bushwhacker is actually a really good weapon, and it's in a good place. I don't have any problem with that. The Liberator Carbine just needs a magazine increase, in my opinion, and the throwing knife just needs a little bit of a rework and maybe some bug fixes if it is truly bugged, like I'm thinking. But in general, I thought the warbond was fine this time. I thought it was, compared to the last one, I thought it was overall a good warbond. Because from the standpoint of, like, we got something that felt unique. We got, like, not only the things I listed, but we also got the unique camos for your vehicles and things like that. So I thought that was cool. So in general, I'm pretty pleased with this warbond. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's like the title says, it's not perfect, but it's better and it's in a good place. And I'm glad that they're going this direction. And hopefully with future warbonds, we can continue this model of coming out with better unique themed things, because I didn't think that the snow theme and all that stuff really worked for the last one, and because none of that stuff really gave me that vibe. But this one, with the weapons being uniquely colored and having skins on them and feeling like you're Rambo, really felt cool in my opinion. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. I'll be coming out with more videos, like I said, going over the patch and everything, and I got a ton of things planned. I'm so behind on videos, but anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope you end up enjoying the new warbond content and everything in the new patch. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.